Hello and welcome. This is the Bits vs. Bytes podcast. I am your host, Ama Grigic, and today I have with me Koen. He's CEO at Lendahand, and he's going to tell all about what they do. So welcome, Koen.
Well, thank you for inviting me. I love being here.
Yeah, cool to have you here as well. And I would like to start off with your background. So could you tell a little bit about what you did before Lendahand, but also how you got to start Lendahand?
Sure. Actually, let me take you back a little bit further. I think that could also be interesting. So, my parents were born in Indonesia, and I'm the first generation born outside of Asia.
Very cool.
My ancestors were from China. So born in The Hague and raised in Zoetermeer, a small city close to The Hague. And I studied econometrics, and then I started in the financial sector. I guess by default, that's what you do if you're
economic.
Exactly. Yeah. So in hindsight, I might have done something different. I don't know, but at that time, it seems logical. So I went and worked for a few banks, and then noticed that for me to develop further, I should go more broad rather than in depth, and I decided to do my MBA. So I applied for a few programs and got enrolled at UC Berkeley.
Mm-hmm.
So spent a few years in the US together with my wife. Awesome time.
Very cool. Yeah.
Bay Area, love it. So. And after that, we decided we wanted to move closer to home, but not necessarily to the Netherlands. So we ended up in the UK, in London, where my wife found a job and I also found a job. So for me, that meant going back to banking again. So I worked at the trading floors of several investment banks. And I really, really loved what I was doing. It was intellectually very challenging, very sharp people around me. So you really have to be on top of your game. So I loved doing it. But after, 5, 6, 7 years, you come to a point where you're going to reflect and think about, is this something that I want to pursue and do for a longer period of time? Or do I want to make a switch? At the same time, my family, so my wife and my little daughter also, they moved back to the Netherlands. So I was commuting. Monday morning, 7 a.m., I would have the plane to London.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and then stay there for a few days. And then on Wednesday night or Thursday night, I would then fly back to the Netherlands, visit clients. I was doing institutional sales. And then on Monday morning, the whole thing would start again.
Oh my God!
Yeah. So I was not the only one. So the fun thing at Monday morning in the plane, all the same people doing the same thing,
really?
Having a family in the Netherlands but working in the UK.
Yeah, but it's a relatively short flight, right? It's like half an hour or something like that.
It is. It's like 35 to 40 minutes.
Yeah.
You go up, you go down. And actually, one day my wife was bringing me to the airport in Rotterdam, and she had to go to her work in Amsterdam, and I was at work sooner than she was. So.
Because of the traffic, probably.
Exactly. Yeah. And also the hour difference makes that you actually arrive at the office at 8 a.m. So that's perfectly fine. But doing that for a few years, it really makes you tired. You feel tired the whole time. But also, for me personally, I found that I was feeling that I was missing out too much, quality
at home,
time with my daughter.
Yeah.
And I was dreaming of, being able to bring my daughter to school on the bike. So the stuff that actually people, take for granted, I was really dreaming of, and that made me really decide that I should, make decisions. You can't have it all in life. So I discussed that with my wife, and I decided to quit my job. But having no other job, available at that time, I just quit my job, moved back. So ended my lease in the UK with my apartment, moved back to the Netherlands, and then decide, and see what I could do next. And then I was thinking, if I'm turning my life upside down, anyways, let's do it. Let's go all in. So I decided to look around and see how can I apply my skills really for the better in this world. Not go, to work for another bank in the Netherlands, but really see what makes me tick, what makes me very happy, and I decided that I really want to go into alternative finance, and that's because also maybe because in my last job I also found out that the only thing that I was doing was reducing the balance sheet. So I was working for a large French bank, and my only assignment was to get rid of loans from the balance sheet because it was too costly.
Pretty empty, I can imagine, right? It gives it doesn't give you like that fulfillment of something, right?
Definitely, yeah. It was like, what am I doing? I'm cleaning up the balance sheet so that it looks better when they show it to the investors.
Yeah.
But I also realized that this is actually an opportunity here. Banks are finding it too costly to provide loans to smaller companies, and banks were actually firing customers. Can you imagine? Like they are firing customers. So
you're not going to be our customer
exactly.
anymore.
So even Deutsche Bank, so they decided to let go of all the small and medium enterprises in the Netherlands, unless they had the feeling that they would get from transactional services or mergers and acquisitions actually generate fees, but on the loans themselves they would not make any money and would just fire the customer.
It's crazy.
Yeah, so this whole disintermediation thing, and at the same time crowdfunding was starting, but crowdfunding was, if you look at how people perceived crowdfunding, was more like, oh, that's someone who needs a bus ticket but doesn't have the money and do a crowdfunding project. So I would rather say crowd investing was really at the early stage, but I saw the opportunity there that this whole idea where the balance sheet of the bank is left out and left out of the equation actually makes so much sense. And then I got I started talking to Peter Heijen, who was developing the whole Lendahand idea. And we decided to join forces together with another Peter Stolze, and with the three of us, we decided to really try and get this off the ground.
Yeah. Because what is it that you together with your partners, what did you set out to provide to the world? Because that's what your goal is.
Exactly. Yeah. So what we see is that people here in the Netherlands, we started in the Netherlands, but we're now also active in the UK and in Belgium and in Finland. But what we saw is that people are really fed up with how the financial system works. So you put your money indeed on the balance sheet of a bank, but of course it's on deposit.
Sure.
You don't get any interest rate. You feel that banks may not be doing the right things with your money.
Investing in the wrong thing,
exactly,
stuff like that.
Exactly, yeah. And then you have all this fraud and money laundering and etc. And it just doesn't feel right for most people. And
sure.
Having been on the inside, it's not that black and white. But yeah, it's mostly because of legacy systems, but also the culture of you have to make money, you have to reach your targets no matter what. The whole financial industry is a little bit outdated, I would say, and people sense that, and they feel that they want to have their money actually at work in a more meaningful way. But yeah, if you feel that, then there's not much that you can do actually, other than going to another bank, which is Triodos or ASN, who are definitely doing it in a better way. But still, the whole customer experience is still not really that friendly. You have to, go visit the branch or do it online, and but then not in a very logical way. So the whole idea of crowd investing, where you can also say online investing, where you really take, start from scratch and really think about how should the customer journey be. That whole concept is pretty new still, and I think that it's for people who understand how they can work with it. It just makes a lot of sense to go to a platform like Lendahand. So we decided to be that platform where people can actually go and in a very easy way, without any frictions, invest in projects and companies in emerging markets. And we decided to go for emerging markets because we feel that if you want to create impact, the impact is largest in countries well, there's just a lot of low-hanging fruit.
Yeah.
We often get the question, why not the Netherlands? And it's a fair question. I think that there's a lot of stuff to do here in the Netherlands as well. But we decided to go for emerging markets because you can create lots of impact there.
Yeah, and they usually need the money even more than someone in the Netherlands, right?
Exactly. They need it more, and you have a lot of there are a lot of entrepreneurs in emerging markets who just are not able to get funding. And that's the same here in the Netherlands. As I said before, people get fired as a customer, but there are people who never got started as a customer because they never got the chance. And we want to give them the chance. And we see a lot of entrepreneurial skills and spirits. Like if wherever you are born, there will be entrepreneurs, but there are more entrepreneurs there that don't get the chance than here. And we want to, provide them the funding so that they can grow their company. And in the end, what we want to achieve is that people here in the Netherlands or in Europe can invest money in very well-run companies in emerging markets or projects. Get a fair financial return, but especially create social impact. And the impact then could be for instance, in the jobs that are created. So we are supporting this entrepreneur and his company. But what we really want is that this entrepreneur is able to hire people on the lower end of the pyramid, people without any education, to actually get a job and build a resume. You also have, for instance, microfinance, where we try to steer away from a little bit, where the whole idea is that if you give someone, $500, that person is able to buy a cow and sell the milk. So the idea is that everybody's an entrepreneur. If you give them money, they can, start a business, a small business, micro business. We rather believe in the idea that there are successful entrepreneurs out there who can grow their company from 5 people maybe to 100 people. And that's what people also want. They don't necessarily want to become an entrepreneur. They just want to have a job that gives them certainty. Yeah, and that's what we try to create.
Yeah, because that's hitting the nail on the head right there. Because I think that a lot of especially in those emerging markets, I think that a lot of people maybe have the ideas and maybe also have the talents to be a good entrepreneur, but they just don't have the chance, right? Yeah. It's different when you're in a West European country where you have all the means necessary to become something. It's different in those kind of markets. So what I was wondering about is, because you have an online platform where people can register and start investing, how does that whole process work? So how do you become a customer at Lendahand and also help out others?
Sure. It used to be very easy. You sign up and you start investing right away.
That was before the license.
Exactly. Yeah. So we decided to become regulated by the AFM, the Dutch financial regulator, because we feel that it forces us. As a startup, you're not opportunity constrained, right? So you can chase opportunities, and before you know it, you don't have your structure in place. And we felt that we should force ourselves to do so, and we decided to go for the license as an investment firm, which is really it's a heavy license, if you will. Yeah. It's the same license that ING, Robeco, all the big asset managers have, but we really wanted to do that to show that we are serious about this business. But it also, what we didn't realize was that how it would mess up the whole customer journey. So now you sign up, and I think the threshold is €250. If it's below €250, it's actually still easy. You do have to provide some kind of data, but not that much. But now, if you want to do more than €250, and most of our investors do, you actually have to upload a copy of your passport. You have to show the proof of address. And if you do even more than a certain amount, you also have to, at one point, you actually have to show a source of wealth. Meaning that you have to show us, your salary, or that you come from a rich family or whatever. So, but
how you can actually afford this? Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah. Because I can imagine that providing all those kind of things, it makes it as you said, it makes it harder for people. But how does that work? So how does that work in your company? So do you need to check those things that they actually provide?
Definitely, yeah. That's our responsibility. So we have outsourced that, but we are still responsible. So we have to do checks, and so anti-money laundering is very important. Counter-terrorism financing is very important.
Sure. Yeah.
Then came GDPR. So yeah, it's like
that doesn't help.
No, we get curveballs.
It's good, but
yeah, we get curveballs thrown at us, every few months. But it's okay. We understand what the regulator is doing. We understand where they come from. Sometimes we feel it's a little bit over-regulated, and we also, let them know. And also, I think the regulator understands that, if you look at the regulations that it's called the WFT, the Wet Financiële Toezichtskader.
Yeah.
So it's the same regulation framework that has been in place for decades, and that Robeco, ING have to adhere to, and then a small company like Lendahand as well.
Yeah.
So it just doesn't make sense. We don't fit in there, and the regulators understand that, and they're trying to be very open about it and see if they should modify the regulations. In the meantime, that's really difficult. So we do have to adhere to standards that don't really
that are really
to us.
strict for something.
Exactly. So it's really big, tough. Yeah. But but back to your question. So suppose you're able to provide the data, and you have signed up. Then actually from there it's very easy. You can go to our on our website. You have a few projects that you can see are going live anytime soon, within the next 48 hours. You can have a look at it. We provide all the data. It's really about investing. This is not donating. This is really about investing in companies that are well run, that have a high quality management, and that are willing to pay an interest rate on the money in order for them to grow their business. Okay. So we allow people to invest, but it also means that you have to provide the right data. So we provide an information document where you can see how have they been performing, management, what is their experience and their background. We do some kind of metric analysis, and we really want to make sure that the people can make an informed decision.
Yeah.
And then what you see is that some people don't care, and some people do care, and then they go through the information and they have a look at it, and then decide either to invest or not. Some people, well, actually, most people take another approach, and what they say is, well, crowdfunding or crowd investing is about being able to also spread over a lot of, say you can spread over 5 platforms.
Yep.
Within each platform, you can spread over a few projects. And if you do that with, amounts of 50, 100 euros, before you know it, you have invested in, say, hundreds of companies.
It's crazy, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And then you don't really have to do that in-depth research because it's only 50 euros. Well, it can still be a lot of money, of course, for people,
someone, yeah.
Yeah, but but you're able to spread over various companies globally. So on our platform, you can spread over companies that are active in countries like Ghana, Philippines, Indonesia. But you also have platforms where you can spread over, Dutch SMEs. And if you do that, then you don't necessarily have to go through all the information. You just, take a glance and see if you think, for you, this is an investment you want to, put 50 euros in, and then you do it. And that's, I think, the beauty of, and then what you see is then it's power to the crowd. If a lot of people do that, they take a glance at it and they decide to do a very small amount, then you see that the projects that make sense actually will get funded, and the projects that don't make sense don't get funded.
Yeah, that makes sense as well. if you put it like that. What I was wondering about is that, so how does it work for the other? I'm calling the other side, but the entrepreneurs on the other side. So how do they? How do you get that return on investment? Do they have to pay it back, or how does that work?
Yeah, so it's definitely a loan, and we do up to 4 years. You get each 6 months they have to repay, including an interest rate. This interest rate is, I would say, just below their average cost of funding. So we try to give them an interest rate that's really sharp, so that they can go to other lenders and say, "Hey, listen, I can actually get a lower loan here. What up?"
Yeah, better
So
than in a
that,
bank or whatever.
exactly. So that they can actually try and get a lower interest rates elsewhere as well. But it's a loan, and they have to repay. And if they don't repay, we will try and get the money back. Because if we don't start doing that, and companies start to realize that, hey, you don't have to repay, then the whole model breaks down.
Of course,
So and we have two clients on both sides, right? We have clients who are the companies, but we also have clients who are the investors.
Yeah.
And for investors, it's really important that they get their money back with an interest rate. And of course, it doesn't always work out like that. We have companies that will fail eventually.
That happens with investing, right?
Exactly.
It happens with all kinds of investment. If you invest in crypto coins, you can also lose your money.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
That's the thing. So, but for the entrepreneurs, because I understand they have to like repay the people that invested in them. So you said there's a period. So there's a period that they need to pay the money back. What was the period again?
Each 6 months they pay back, and they can
they
do
have
it
to
up
pay
to 4 years.
Yeah, so they have to pay a percentage of that, right?
Yeah.
So how do you make money as a platform then? Because is that kind of percentage of the loan or whatever?
It is, yeah. So we charge a success fee for each successful loan that's been funded. We get a certain percentage.
Oh, cool. Yeah, that seems fair. I mean, you're providing the whole platform to connect those people to those projects, because I think that's the most. I think a lot of people would do this if they actually had the way to connect these kind of projects, right?
Yeah.
Because a lot of in the Netherlands, a lot of people actually donate to NGOs. It's a donation. It's different, I know, but they do that to an NGO, but they maybe not see the actual result, and you see the actual result if you do it like this, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's and we try to also, the storytelling part of it is also very important. We want to show people not only did you get an interest rate, but this is also the impact that you have created,
Sure.
and that's very important for our investors to know. So yeah, it's really the combination of the financial and the social return that makes it very appealing to them. So the financial return, to be honest, if you would be a pure financial or financially orientated investor, you would not go to our platform.
No, because it's mostly small amounts that you
small amounts is too risky. You don't, I mean, probably the right pricing of it would be a few percentage point higher, I would say, but if you then take into account what your money is working on, then suddenly it starts to make sense. So it's really the combination of it, and but what we see is that people in the end, they don't care only about financial returns.
No,
they really want to see their money. Well, they want to see the money being used for the greater good. And indeed, what you were saying, like the people want to have control over that. They want to see where their money is used, and that's very important.
Yeah, and that's what sometimes you miss when you donate to an NGO. I think that's correct.
Yeah.
So how do you, because you provide, of course, the platform, but how do you, in what other ways do you kind of help those kind of entrepreneurs on the other side? Do you help them, or how does that work?
Yes, we try to. So we also have the Lendahand Foundation. This is a separate entity from the Lendahand Corporation. And the idea is that so we're not profit making yet, but as soon as we're profitable, we want to donate a certain percentage of it to the foundation. In the meantime, the foundation gets subsidies from Triodos Foundation, ASN Foundation, and a few others.
Sure. Yeah.
And what the foundation does is they provide training sessions. So we really believe in the combination of providing funding and training. And I can give you an example. In Ghana, we have a local partner there that we work together with. And through that local partner, we finance entrepreneurs in Ghana. So we went there, and you go and visit those entrepreneurs. And we one day we visited a company that was making those that bricks basically to build houses. And you start, talking to the founder, to the director, and you're asking like simple questions like, so I see a few different stones. What's your margin on the brown stone versus the white stone? And he would not be able to tell you that. He's like, I don't. So yeah, I don't know. Yeah, so it's a different process of making these white stones versus the brown stones. But I don't know how much more it costs actually, and I do charge 2 cents more, but I don't know if it actually covers the cost. And still it's actually profitable business. And this is going back to low hanging fruit. If this entrepreneur gets training in very basic bookkeeping and actually in cost accounting, he can actually understand whether he should maybe not making those white bricks at all, and go only for the brown ones and actually make a higher margin. And there's a lot of things that people can actually improve upon.
Yeah.
Well, they are already making a good business. So that's really awesome. You can actually improve that. And that's what the foundation wants. So the foundation, we're not, flying in experts telling them what they should do. We try to find locals there who actually know and understand the market and have them explain to those entrepreneurs how they can actually improve their business.
Very good. Yeah. So they actually provide the trainings, for example, because as you said, these are kind of the most basic things. But I can imagine that this is one of the challenges of those emerging markets, right?
Yeah.
That they need to know how to price things, of course, but also just calculating cost and everything like that. But what are some of the other challenges you've seen that face these kind of emerging markets that you provide as well?
Well, a very big risk overhang always in those countries is the currency. And that's really something that we need to solve. So also at Lendahand, right now, if you invest, you're actually investing euros, you're lending out euros to those entrepreneurs or to the local partners that we use to finance those entrepreneurs. And for those companies, their income is in Kenyan shilling or Indonesian rupiah. And then they have to use those earnings to pay back the loan. But if in the meantime their currency has weakened versus the euro, suddenly they find that they have to maybe put up twice as much of their local currency in order to pay off the loan. This is a huge risk. So right now, this risk is borne by the borrowers, and we are urgently trying to seek a solution for that.
That's a hard one actually, because you don't have any control over that, right? It could be just that it drops and that's it.
Yeah, it's a macroeconomic factors, but also politically influences. So of course you could say, well, the investors can take the risk. So instead of lending euros, they can actually lend in local currency. But what you see is that most people are afraid of that, and I can understand. Like as I said, you can you can choose your own projects, and you can see, oh, this is with a good management team, I'm gonna do 50 euros. But people probably don't have any vision about the Kenyan shilling.
Yeah,
like I don't know. Even I would have a hard time figuring out where I think the Kenyan shilling will go to.
I'm not looking at that every day.
Exactly
to see how that's going.
Yeah. So then people say that's too difficult for me. Then of course I get a higher interest rate if I do it in Kenyan shilling, but I don't understand. I back out. But you do have companies out there that actually provide hedging services. So they are the ones that can actually say, give me that risk. I'm able to warehouse it and eventually offload it to the market. And they can then go to banks and, do swaps and, try to hedge themselves again. But those, and we have discussions with those companies if they can actually provide those hedging services to our investors. But then you again bump into regulation constraints. So it all boils down to the same thing here. As a fintech, I guess that's the
part
fact of life. It's part of life, and you have to deal with it. But again, so now we're talking to the AFM about it, and they are open for it. So yeah, hopefully we get the approval.
Yeah, because that's something that I've noticed when I had a previous podcast with Bank as well.
Mm-hmm.
They had the same problem, or pretty much the same problem. They were also one of the newer banks that are doing it totally digital, and every regulation was like, okay, we're not really equipped to deal with that, right?
Yeah.
They didn't think about, of course, they didn't think about it back then when they put up the regulations that there will be platforms like this, like Lendahand, but also Bank, right? That's something that I've noticed is happening a lot in that financial sector, is that it has to kind of get up to speed to the whole online part, right?
Yeah.
That's something that I've noticed. I don't know if you feel like that as well, but I think that's a big thing.
Yeah.
So going back to a little bit of other challenges as well. So you started this. How many years ago was this?
2014.
Yeah. So it's about 5 years now. So what are some of the challenges that you had, also apart from the license, of course, because that took 2.5 years. We talked a little bit before the podcast, but what are some of the other challenges that you've seen pop up in the last few years, actually?
For us, Lendahand specifically?
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
So funding is really hard. So we are a social enterprise. It's easier to go out to venture capital funds and angel investors. Well, angel investors actually do have a different mindset, but the more commercially orientated investors, if you tell them, like, you know what, we are driven by a social mission, but we really believe that if you do that, you can actually create economic value. That concept is really hard to explain.
Yeah, they just want to see a return on investment.
Exactly. And, that return on investment can come later, but if there seems to be, like there are two rule books, one for commercial ones and one for social enterprises. If you're a commercial entity and you say, I'm not going to make any revenues in the next 5 years, but I'm going to grow like crazy, like Uber, Facebook, whatever, they're like, whoa, well, go for it. And here's 5 million euros. Yeah. If you say, we're a social enterprise, we have a social mission, but we're going to create economic value, they're like, yeah, show me first.
Sure.
So, sure. You actually have to prove your concept first, rather than, and commercial entities don't have to do that. They have to have a big idea. So getting financing in place is really, really hard to do. But we've managed so far. But yeah, it's not easy. So that's, if you're a social enterprise, it's, you're 1-0 behind already,
Yeah. And you needed to kind of think of this whole platform by yourself as well, right? I mean, there are some platforms that, of course, do some crowdfunding, but it's mostly geared toward a product or something that needs to be created, right? So was that also something that you feel was a challenge as well?
Yeah, definitely.
Thinking of how this whole construction should go? Yeah,
definitely. So you always have this whole network effect that if it works in your favor, then it's really awesome. But if you start, it's really daunting.
Yeah.
So where do you start first? So we started to find really good companies in emerging markets. But then you go there and say, we're going to start a crowdfunding platform, and then people are going to invest in you. And like, so how many investors do you have right now? None.
They're like, they still have to come.
Exactly. So come back when you have, a few hundred, few thousand of those investors. And then if you go to, investors say, we're going to build a crowdfunding platform where you will invest in really nice companies in emerging markets. They say, where are they? Well, we have to still find them, You have this whole chicken and egg problem.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So, and then you have to be lucky. You have to get a break.
Yeah.
And we got that. We got a break by finding eventually a good company where we could start. They said, you know what? I really believe in this concept, and let's do it. And then, of course, on the other side...
That's important.
That's really important. And you have to have that break. So every startup deals with it. I mean, you can have the best people in place and the best structure, whatever. In the end, you need a break. And we got that break. And then you go, on the investor side, you go to your, friends, family, and fools who always believe in you, and they start investing. And then the network effect is going to work for you. And you see that people are actually referring, and we get high grades actually from we have the feedback company on our website, and I think we score a 9.0 there, so really
Crazy.
High. And it's really hard for people to refer financial products to friends, because the the probability of losing your money is always there. But people tell about this is a whole new concept where you can invest in really cool companies, and the ball starts rolling. But yeah, before you get there, it's really hard to actually get the first.
Yeah,
few
so
place.
it's like most startups, right?
Yeah.
The first few years are kind of make or break, right?
Yeah, tropical years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that was a lot of headaches in those years.
Exactly. Yeah.
So
and it still is. And then maybe another
Yeah.
challenge, also as a specifically as a social enterprise, is to get talent on board.
sure.
As a startup, but it also relates to the first problem of getting funding in place. We were not able to pay good salaries. Some startups actually are able to pay good salaries because they're well funded. For
Sure.
us, that was not the case. But at the same time, you also don't want to compromise. You only want to hire the best people available in
that's
the
hard.
market. Yeah.
Yeah.
But so there we were, trying to get the best people in the market, attract them with little salaries. So of course, you can give them options, which aligns them with the company and gives them a little
Yeah.
kicker in the future. But still, it's really hard, and then it's really about selling your company to those kind of people. But there also we were lucky in the sense of timing. If we would have started Lendahand, say, 15 years ago when I started entering the market, we probably wouldn't have been able to start it and attract the right talent, because at that time the mindset of the graduates is different than it is right now.
Sure. Yeah.
And right now you have young people. So for me, people quite often ask me like, so how did you come about and make that switch from an investment banking career to try and work for a social enterprise? And I give my story, and people say, wow, that's awesome. But what I really admire is the people who decided from the get-go, I want to work for a company where it's driven by social mission, where I can create impact, where I can add value to the world, and I'm gonna make less money. That's perfectly fine.
Yeah, because that's the age-old thing that we also have. I mean, we're a small company as well, but it is really hard to attract talent. Is not the point here. It's actually the amount you're going to pay them to have them on board, right?
Yeah.
Especially when it's a social kind of thing, then you really need to be involved in the mission and also believe in that kind of concept that it will work, right?
Yeah,
that's
exactly.
the biggest thing. So what do you see kind of as a future or as a dream that you would like to have with this whole project that you have going on, this whole company?
Yeah, that's a tough question.
It's a really tough question. I'm all up for the tough questions here.
Yeah, but it's a good question. And so the way we see ourselves going forward and the industry is, so first of all, this whole idea of people deciding where they want to put the money to use is going to stay.
Sure.
This is not going away. Then the question will be like, how is the whole industry going to pan out? And what you saw a few years ago, there were like hundreds of platforms, and what you see right now is that lots of them have
disappeared,
gone and consolidated, and that's also because of the regulations. So you see a consolidation here, and there will be a few winners. And we think with our niche product, we don't see much competition. We also feel that we're so far ahead of others. I mean, this whole regulation thing is actually a blessing and a curse, and the blessing also being, to be honest, that it throws a lot of barriers to entry for others. If someone decides, hey, I'm gonna, what Lendahand does, we can do it much better, I'm gonna do this, that person should come to us, and we will tell, so this is what you have to do in terms of regulations, compliance, and governance.
It's gonna take you 2.5 years.
Exactly, the person will run away screaming. So we feel that we found our place in the market, and we will be able to build it out. But what you will see is that there will be consolidation, and that's not only nationally, that will be internationally. You will find a few large players active in Europe, in US, and Asia, and we hopefully are going to be one of those. And these companies should really reinvent themselves. So this online investing, these online investing platforms have innovated the market, maybe even disrupted the market, and you have all these banks looking at those companies saying, "Hey, what are they doing? And should we not do the same thing?" And they're kind of getting into defense mode, and then eventually they will go into attack mode, of course, and perhaps try to take over those companies. But at the same time, you can also argue that it will not be. So what is the end game? Will it be the banks actually taking over these companies, and then business as usual? Or will it, for instance, be, I don't know, Facebook asset management, Why not, invest through the Facebook platform, in entrepreneurs in India or Indonesia? So we don't know what exactly the end game will be, but I think that it will be different players that are going to emerge from this. And it could also be combinations of, technology companies and financial sector players. But the winners, for sure, will be the ones that are able to make this process as frictionless as possible, and ultimately also as make it peer-to-peer as much as possible. And by that I mean, and you can think of blockchain and biometric identification, all these kind of technologies that are emerging right now. You should be able, and then also the whole currency thing.
Sure, yeah,
play, of course.
That's the thing there. Yeah.
But for instance, if I am able to invest in a farmer in Kenya who needs a tractor, and needs $10,000 in Kenyan shilling, and I'm able to provide, say, 10,000 shilling of that, or 100,000 shilling, on my app, and provide it, and he will get it real time right away, and it's stored on the blockchain, and I can and he can only use, and it will be converted into tokens, and he can only use the tokens to indeed buy that tractor and not do something else with it.
Yeah.
And that farmer has been identified using biometric identification tools, but also maybe, and his credit worthiness has been assessed by psychometric models, all this kind of technology that's now emerging. And then he or she can start paying off whenever they want, but on time, but sooner if they are able to actually grow the business faster than they thought. Then those kind of players who are able to deliver on that are going to be the winners.
Yeah, because all these kind of technologies make it more transparent, of course, because you can if it's blockchain related, then you could probably see it just on a public kind of a network or whatever. So that's interesting to me. These kind of things are going to help investors actually see that real impact, right?
Exactly.
That's the whole idea behind it.
Exactly.
And what do you feel like is the dream? What is the dream for you as a platform as well?
For us as a platform, actually the dream is to be redundant and close our doors.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Yeah, no, definitely. And we've started Lendahand, and everybody working at Lendahand is working for Lendahand because we feel that we are not idealists, we are realists. We really think that, with the money flows, the capital markets that are out there, that we are solving problems that are actually solvable. I don't know if you heard about the SDGs, the the Sustainable Development Goals. So by 2030, there are 17 goals that should actually be reached in order for us to make the world a better place.
Those are things that you kind of made up, or
no? There's the UN, the United Nations.
Oh, so the United Nations.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, but there's a huge shortfall of, from the top of my head, it's like 5 trillion per year that is needed. That's needed in addition to whatever is invested right now in those SDGs in order to achieve those goals. So one of the goals, for instance, so goal number 1 is actually no poverty. No, goal number 2 is no hunger, and goal number 7, for instance, is all people should have access to energy in a clean and affordable way. And these are goals that really set us on fire. We really are inspired by those goals, and we really think that these are solvable if we are able to so you have this whole donation market indeed, which is very good to have. We need donations in order to build, get water to people, and
Sure.
But in the end, if you really want to solve those really big problems, you need the capital markets for it. And I'm a capitalist. I really believe that there are lots of things that are wrong with the capital system, but there are also a lot of things that are right with the system.
Sure.
We just need to change direction. We need to change direction, and we need to do it together with all of us. But if we you also see, with the students, the high school students who are protesting, for a better measures again, for the climate
environment.
change. Exactly. You see this whole shift going on already, but now we also need to give people the tools to actually act on it. And we want to provide one of those tools, and we believe that if we are able to do this, and not only us, but many others as well, we can actually reach those goals and make sure that we, maybe the kids who are born right now are going to be the last generation who actually are experiencing poverty. Maybe poverty will be something that will be part of the history books. It should be doable. It should be, it's not too far away to think that, those 600 million people in Africa who don't have access to electricity, they'll get access to electricity in a clean way, right? So without any carbon and emissions. So that's definitely something that is doable, and we really want to be one of the tools for people to act on this and make sure that those goals are reached.
Very cool, because what I've noticed is that the real difference here is kind of the short lines, right? Because you don't really have like a lot of layers that you have to go through to see that investment come to the actual person that needs the investment, right? That's the big difference to other kind of ways to invest in these kind of emerging markets. And also what you said is true. I mean, it's good to say to someone, okay, let's have some clean energy here, but when they don't have the money to invest in the tools to have that clean energy, then it doesn't work.
Exactly.
That's the thing. So I want to start and wrap up. I have one more question, the last question I always ask.
Okay.
What are you most proud of?
What I'm most proud of, definitely is the team. As I said, these are people who decided to quit their jobs or start right out of college and work for a company like Lendahand, because they believe in the mission. And we always say, we're a bunch of like-minded idiots trying to, and having this dream of actually being able to, reduce poverty to zero and to get people get access to electricity in a clean way. It's, as a team, we are actually, we are a high-performing team, but we're also making a lot of fun along the way. It's really awesome to, sometimes I just, if I look around me, at the office, I'm really proud of what as a company, what we have achieved by being able to bring this kind of talent together and work on a mission. So that's definitely what I'm very proud of.
Very cool. And I would like to end it on that, because I think that's a good send-off. So how can people find you on the internet?
It's lendahand.com.
Sure. Okay. I will put it in the show notes as well,
Cool.
Of course. Thank you for being here. Thank you for your story. I think it's very inspiring to hear this kind of things.
Thank you.
For the listeners, of course, you can find the Bits vs. Bytes podcast on bitsvsbytes.com, and also on all social media. It's all Bits vs. Bytes, so on Twitter, Instagram, and also on LinkedIn. And you can find us all on the major podcasting platforms, so Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, TuneIn, SoundCloud. I think I have everyone. So that's it for now, and I would like to thank you for listening, and until next time.